Welcome to Funnel Hacker Radio Podcast, where we go behind the scenes and uncover the tactics and strategies top entrepreneurs are using to make more sales, dominate their markets, and how you can get those same results. Here is your host, Dave Woodward.
Hey everybody, welcome to Funnel Hacker Radio. I'm your host, Dave Woodward, and today you guys are in for a super special treat today. You have the opportunity of hearing from a dear friend, but most importantly, a guy that a lot of us over here at ClickFunnels look to for advice and suggestions. I want to introduce real quick my friend, Garrett Gunderson. Garrett, welcome.
Dave, good to be with you. I think it's hilarious that I had your brother at one of our workshops recently, and I'm speaking, right? The workshop's small, like 40 people. We like to keep it at about 40, 42 people. And he just starts yelling at me. He's like, "Why didn't you tell me this before?" Like corrected. I'm like, "What do you mean?" He goes, "Dude, I didn't know you did all this kind of stuff." And so on the break, he went off on the break, made a few phone calls, saved $1,500 a month. And I've known him for 10 years. So, I think it's funny sharing some of these things because there's so much that can be improved in someone's financial life, but it's not really a conversation I walk up and have with someone one-on-one. That could be, I would lose friends, I think. I mean, they would like the results, but no one wants you to just walk up and be like, "Hey, Dave, let me ask you some questions about your finances." So this gives us kind of a nice angle to go into it. And Woody was pretty stoked about the whole thing.
I am super excited. Well, Todd Dickerson, one of our co-founders of ClickFunnels, speaks very highly of you. I've had the opportunity of meeting you many different times. Genius networked out with Joe Polish not too long ago. And again, a huge thank you to you you are the whole reason why Robert Kiyosaki is writing the foreword for Russell's book. So before we even get started, I want to make sure everyone understands you are the man, highly connected guy, but most importantly, has a ton of knowledge that I can't wait to kind of get into. So thank you once again, Garrett. We're really super excited for all that.
Yeah, I had some great calls with Todd. It's been a lot of fun working with him. And I remember seeing Russell at that last Genius Network event, and he asked if I wanted to wrestle, and I said no immediately. I was smart to avoid that, for sure.
Well, let's just dive right in. I mean, you're a best-selling author, and again, you're a guy who's done funnels for years and years and years, online and offline. But I want to spend more time right now really kind of diving into the financial aspect of a business entrepreneur, because that's really who you work with and specialize the most in it, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, really what we do is the personal finance for entrepreneurs, because really highly affluent people get great advice. People worth $100 million or more. They get family offices that were designed after the Rockefeller-style family office. So they have attorneys and accountants and investment advisors and cash flow specialists and every type of insurance professional, all at the same table, all working to make sure that someone gets good advice. But entrepreneurs, as you know, we put our money back into our business, and our net worth is a lot of times tied up in that business, and we're always looking to increase revenues and grow that business. So I don't see a lot of entrepreneurs that get access to those people until they've already made it. And most of the people I run with are more in my situation, where they have good revenues, they have good profits, but not necessarily the type of attention financially to get them where they want to go. And most financial advisors, unfortunately, give really bad advice to entrepreneurs by having them separate themselves for their money, put it into some retirement plan that's illiquid, high risk, a ton of fees. And so I have a lot of passion for helping these entrepreneurs recognize they're their greatest asset, that they shouldn't go speculate with money unless they're speculating inside of their business, because speculation outside of their business is where a lot of losses and heartache comes. And before people even start saving more money and scrimping, why don't they, instead of budget, find more money that's right there for their taking? Because entrepreneurs overpay the IRS, they overpay on their investment fees typically, they overpay on their insurance costs, and they usually overpay on their interest rates and everything that they're doing with institutions. So I love putting that money back into their life, letting them invest it back in their business, and then finding automated systems to capture that wealth along the way. Just like what you guys have done with funnels, I want to do that for capturing money.
I love that. Awesome. Well, how did you even get started in all this kind of stuff?
Well, I started my first business when I was 15 years old, just detailing cars. I mean, I guess I had some business before that, which was basically, legal extortion, which was going to my family's houses, like my grandparents and everything, and mowing their lawn for money. But I eventually had this kind of legitimate business where there was, a business license, and I would detail cars, and I won $5,000 for being in the Young Entrepreneur of the Year. when I won that money, I wanted to take and invest that. I guess it shows I'm a bit of a financial nerd, but the more questions I asked, the more people I talked to, the more confusing it became. And my mom, being this Italian, that, her money management method was coffee cans that you put cash in the cellar, she wouldn't even sign off for me to invest. So when I finally turned 18, my first investment was an investment mistake. I put it into an investment where they promised me 18% returns. But as a nerd, I did an econometrics course. I did a thesis on it. I figured out that it wasn't going to get 18%. As a matter of fact, the way it was structured, the fees were going to eat it to death, where it had a 98.7% chance of not having more than what I put in it. So that led me down a path of asking even more questions, getting an internship in the world of finance, which sounds cool, but it was like, bring your friends and family so we can peddle products to them. And in 2000, when the stock market started going down, I did the opposite of what most financial people did. I went to my clients, told them I didn't know what I was doing exactly, and they should move to cash and either give me time to figure out something better or find a different advisor. And all clients but one stayed with me. And that's how I really started to figure out a little bit more about the world of finance, demystify it, simplify it. And then I really focused on people cut more from the cloth that I was, which was the entrepreneurs. Because, that just was, I didn't want to go work with the people worth $1 billion or, $500 million or 100 million, because we have some of those clients. They're the highest maintenance, hardest to work with, and it takes us 10 times longer to get results because of the huge team that we have to communicate with. I'd rather work with someone like, Todd, that's successful, doing really well, focused in on his business, and then say, hey, let us help build a financial team to support everything that you're up to.
I love that. I think the thing I love the most about what you do is you're so open and honest, Garrett, and and you're so passionate about the fact that, personal finance it's totally different for entrepreneurs. Where you've had the opportunity of working with guys literally who don't have much money to people who have a ton of money. What are some of the things that you've learned, and where should our ClickFunnels followers, what should they be doing with their money?
So before you go invest a single dollar, I'm going to give you a structure to start implementing immediately to improve your life. First off, go to wherever you're currently banking and set up a separate account. I like to call that account your wealth capture account. And if you follow this, you'll never have to budget again, and yet you'll end up with more money. So I think budgeting sucks. That's why one of my book titles is called Budgeting Sucks. I think it's all about restriction and reduction, but the real game of wealth is, obviously people should live within their means, but realize there's other ways to live within your means other than budgeting. You could expand your means, which is finding ways to grow your business, grow your revenue, grow your profitability, and your ability, what you do to leverage your abilities. And then there's also being more efficient with your money, which is keeping more of every dollar that you make. And who doesn't want to keep more of every dollar they make if that means they don't have to scrimp or sacrifice or save or delay? So setting up this separate account is a very simplistic action that leads to profound results, because this separate account will prevent you from commingling your funds, and it helps to combat Parkinson's law. Parkinson's law, if we apply it to finance, says when your income goes up, your expenses rise to meet or exceed that increase within 3 to 6 months. So if that's the case, and you go make more money, have you ever met, Dave, people that are making more money now than they ever have, but they're in more financial trouble now than they've ever been in?
I meet people like that all the time.
Right, and part of it's a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity. So that's one piece of it.
I love that saying.
Yeah. So what I think that if you just set up a separate account, and then you just go back to what George S. Clason taught in the 1920s with his book, Richest Man in Babylon, is you pay yourself first. You just, every time you go to make a payment from your business to you personally, a certain percentage comes off the top and goes in your wealth capture account. And here's the key. You automate your savings. You don't automate your investing. You want to automate savings and be deliberate with your investing. I mean, think about it in marketing. If you're putting money into a marketing campaign and it's not working, and you never split test it, you don't see if there's any conversion on it, but you just keep adding traffic and keep putting money into it, you're going to eventually go out of business. And the same thing happens when people automatically invest. They invest without any notion of, is this improving my life? Is this creating economic independence? Is this growing? Or is it simply growing because I'm adding money to it? What are the fees involved in it? So if we separate this and start automating our savings, once there's enough money in that wealth capture account, you can deliberately allocate it to choose what you want to do. So that's the first thing, set up a wealth capture account. But the second thing is you figure out the difference between a cash flow index and an investment index. And this is profound, because if you want to shave off the time it takes to pay off loans, this will cut it in to maybe 2/3. You cut a third off the time, you can pay it off in 2/3 of the time without having to add more money. It's just a structure. So cash flow index is where you take every loan that you have, you take the balance and divide it by its minimum monthly payment. It's going to spit out a number. So loan balance divided by minimum monthly payment. Credit cards, car loans, business loans, you name it. Anything that way. You're just basically going to figure out what the number spits out. And it's not about the interest rate. That'll be taken into consideration. It's about efficiency here. So when the number's less than 50, you have a cash hog on your hands. A cash hog means you have a relatively low amount of money that's been given to you by an institution, or that you owe them at this point, with a pretty high payment. That is an inefficient loan. So what you do is you pay the minimum to every single loan that you have. And if you are going to pay extra, you only pay extra to the one with the lowest cash flow index. The lowest cash flow index is bad. We're not playing golf here, we're playing basketball. You want a high score. In the hundreds is good. Less than 50, that's a pretty bad game, right? So the second thing, though, and this is going to help you identify how good of an investor you are and where the best place to allocate your money is you want to figure out your investment index. Your investment index is you take the amount of money you put into an investment. So what's that total amount you put? And then you divide it by the minimum, or by the cash flow that's coming out monthly. So here's a spoiler. If you have a retirement plan, it's probably zero. It's probably not providing any cash flow. But maybe you put some money down on a piece of real estate and it's kicking off some cash flow. How much did you put down? How much cash flow is coming in? And you just take the loan balance, or the amount you put in, divide it by the monthly income that's coming in. And now you want that number to be low. Because if it's a low number, it means you put in a relatively low amount of money in relationship to a pretty high cash payment. Just like what the bank wants with the cash flow index is they want a low number, you want a high number. When you're the investor, you're like the bank. So investment index, you want a really low number, because the lower the number, it means the more cash flow that's coming in for you. And look, I guess I got to give a little bit of background here, Dave. I'm in the belief that most people can get economically independent where they have enough recurring revenue that comes in from their investment income, or even entrepreneurial income, that doesn't require their daily involvement or management to cover their expenses. So that gives them a level of foundation built. That economic independence is that income coming in to cover the expenses, whether you show up to work the next day or whether you're managing your investments that day. It doesn't mean that it's totally passive. You still monitor it. But when that happens, you create something that 98% of entrepreneurs don't have at age 65, which is financial and economic independence. So I believe that you can get there between 3 and 7 years. The first thing is you set up that wealth capture account. The second thing is you figure out your cash flow index. You stop paying extra to all the loans at once, pay the minimum to every loan other than the one with the lowest cash flow index, and then you translate this over to your investment index. And if you find out that your cash flow indexes are really low and your investment indexes are really high, then stop putting money in those investments that aren't creating cash flow and start paying off the loans even quicker to free up cash flow. Here's the easier way to look at it. What if you're getting 3% interest on a certificate of deposit, yet you're paying 6% interest on a business loan? Maybe cash out that certificate of deposit, because it's an automatic 100% return and savings by paying off that higher interest rate loan. Most people don't look at that because advisors can't get paid unless you got your money in with them. I'm not here to make money by selling products. I'm here to give you the knowledge and the insight to improve your cash flow. So I know I just covered a ton of information in a short period of time.
Dude, I've got like pages of notes here. So I absolutely love that. I mean, I think that, the part I love the most there, Garrett, is, people have always talked about paying yourself first, but no one really knows exactly how to do it. And I think what you just went through was fantastic. And again, Parkinson's law, I've seen that happen in so many people's lives, my own included at one time. And there's nothing worse than having a whole bunch of cash coming in and it all goes out faster than it can come in. So absolutely love that.
We get it. As entrepreneurs, our answer to almost everything is, I'll make more money. And so the proverbial treadmill, right? That treadmill is, I'm going to run faster, but you're not getting further ahead. My job is to help you plug the leaks in the bucket. Because when you pay yourself first, the ideal amount to pay yourself first on is 18%. Now that's personal income, not business revenue. But 18%, that might put a few people into shock. But there's a reason for it. 3% just to handle the taxes that are probably going up in the future. 3% because inflation exists. 3% for something called planned obsolescence. Things break down and they have to be replaced. I sure as hell know that because we've had to replace our Viking dishwasher and washer and dryer this year. I'm like, great. And then, you've got, in addition to all of that, you've got what I call propensity to consume, or a luxury once enjoyed becomes a necessity, right? So we got inflation, taxes, planned obsolescence, propensity to consume, and then technological change. I mean, we're buying things now that didn't even exist 10, 20 years ago. Who knows what that's going to be like in the future? Now we're at 15%. Now the last 3% you're going to like, because I actually would have you set up one more separate account and call it your living wealthy account. And that means if you're already paying yourself first, take 1/6 of what you're paying yourself first when you hit that 18% and spend it on whatever you want to spend it on. The only rule is you just got to enjoy it, and you can blow it on what you want to blow it on. You want to fly first class lay down seats to Europe. You want to fly private. You want to get nice clothes. You want to be a foodie and go to great restaurants. You want to buy great wine, whatever it is for you. You just get to spend that on what you really enjoy because you should be rewarded for paying yourself first. Now, where we're just damn good is we can figure out where to find that 18%. 93% of businesses are overpaying on tax by $11,230 per $500,000 of revenue. That's pretty substantial. Tons of business owners are overpaying on their interest. If a business is only doing between $250,000 and $500,000, the average is $2,400 some per month. If the business is doing between $500,000 and $1 million, it's $4,117 per month of overpayment on their cash flow optimization. So that's overpaying interest, it's improper loan structure, it's the discrepancy of what they're earning versus what they're paying. It's a whole process that we go through. So imagine just taxes and cash flow optimization, what that means, because it's all added to the bottom line. That's not revenue where you have to pay employees and all that kind of stuff. This is just bottom line spendable cash in your pocket. And if you find this money, like I already give you some of the hints with cash flow index versus investment index, setting up a wealth capture account. But I mean, even on the tax side, Dave, I mean, I know tons of business owners that have online businesses and they're not putting their kids up on the website, and then they can pay their kids $2,500 a modeling fee, and that's completely tax deductible to business, but tax-free income for the kids. And if your kids are under 18, you're controlling where that money goes anyway. Or I know people that host events at their house all the time, whether it's employees or customers, yet they're not charging their business for that access, which they could do that 14 times a year, write it off, but not have to claim it as personal income. I mean, I can just go all day long on tax strategy of what people can do to put less money in the government's pocket and keep it in their own. I mean, I know you didn't ask the question, but I'll just give this framework. First of all, if you want to know whether you're overpaying tax or not, or if you're making tax mistakes because of tax traps, first off, if you're just deferring taxes, that isn't saving taxes. Ask yourself, do you think the government's raising or lowering the tax bracket? And number two, do you plan on having more or less money in the future? If you plan on having less money in the future, that's a pretty dangerous place to be, just because of inflation and because a luxury once enjoyed is a necessity, like we said before. The second thing is, if you're trying to save tax simply by spending money, don't spend money that you wouldn't have otherwise spent just in the name of saving tax. I know people that invested in oil and gas, it was a tax deduction, but they lost their money. I know people that go buy something because it's December and they're worried about paying tax, so they buy a car that they weren't going to buy otherwise. Don't let the tax tail wag the dog. It never makes sense to spend $1 to save 40 cents. You only want to, I've bought artwork before and donated it. For every $1 I spent on the artwork, it was up in my office in my house. When I donate it, I get to donate it 3 years later for full appraised value, where I got $2 back for every $1 I spent. Okay, there are exceptions to these rules, but be careful. Those are some of the traps. The real value for people, most business owners don't take enough deductions. They leave it as an expense. Anytime an expense in your life can be related to your business, deduct it. Anytime you can reclassify your income. There's tons of business owners that take salary instead of distributions. There's tons of business owners that own a building, but they don't charge themselves top rent and they pay themselves a bigger wage. That's all ways that people are overpaying tax because they're classifying active income that can be translated over to more passive income, and passive income can save you up to 15.3% because of all the self-employment taxes that could be avoided. Or, I was just on the phone with a client today where, and this is something that, Russell and I once talked about on the phone briefly, is we set up an insurance company for him. And when they put their money in the insurance company, it's pre-tax. If a risk happens to their business, it's tax-free when they pay for that. But if the risk doesn't happen, which happens most of the time, they can pull that money out as a capital gain. So anytime you can take ordinary income and turn it to capital gain, that's going to save you tax. So I know I'm speaking extraordinarily fast, but hopefully you can listen to it multiple times, or we'll give you some cool resources, or follow me on Forbes. I write for them quite a bit, where I give all these strategies so business owners are empowered with them.
Garrett, I absolutely love every single thing you're saying. I don't even feel like I should even be asking a question. I should just let you talk. But again, I think it's just amazing as far as the whole idea, as far as the reclassification of expenses is something that I've been amazed at as I've talked to different business owners and things. And I'm just in awe as far as how people make the kind of mistakes that you're talking about. And I would love, if you don't mind, just kind of continuing on what you were talking about as far as giving people additional ideas. I definitely want to make sure, obviously, I know you're going to give some resources at the end as well, but what are some of the other things? I mean, you run across business owners and entrepreneurs all the time. What are some of the other mistakes people are making? What should they be doing differently?
So do you want me first to give maybe a couple more tax strategies and then jump into the mistakes?
Sure, let's do that.
Cool. I'm going to get, just because I was thinking that when you're like, hey, let's keep going on this. So I was already starting to think, I'll give just a couple in a couple of minutes. Number one, if you're a business and you're not incorporated, you're overpaying tax. You want to incorporate, it helps you reclassify your income. It also protects you from liability. And if your accountant told you not to incorporate, accountants shouldn't be giving you that advice. That's an attorney, like a tax attorney or a corporate attorney's job, to give advice on entities. So that's a big piece right there. If you're an LLC and you're a single member LLC, you're probably overpaying tax, because LLCs are better taxed as partnerships when you have at least a 1% partner in that, or elected as an S corp, which could even help out. So that's another mistake that could be corrected. If you've overpaid taxes and you're a corporation, every 3 years, get a second set of eyes and have another accountant look at your stuff, because you can go back and amend your returns and reclaim cash from the past. So the IRS would owe you money if you missed something, rather than you keep paying them money. We've had, the biggest amount was the guy that got back $457,000. The lowest amount was $951. Now, only about half the time can someone go back, but when, where they actually got the money back, it was between $951,000 and $457,000. Just had someone that got back $200,000 by amending the returns. Simply learned about it at our workshop. Did exactly what you said, getting a second set of eyes, not even using our people, $200,000 back into their life. So that was really cool. So amending your returns is a big deal. If you own a building, you can learn something called cost segregation. We had this guy, Mike, that when we did that with him, it saved him $11,000 a year moving forward. And Mike, we also got back $100,000 in amendments while I'm thinking about him. This is paying your kids, which I mentioned. Renting out your home to your business 14 days or less per year is another one that I mentioned, just to review that. How you pay yourself out of the corporation absolutely changes how you're taxed overall. There's just so many things. But if your accountant is telling you they're conservative usually means antiquated or missing deductions. I don't want any accountant that's unethical. I mean, look, we've been doing this for so long. And I could think of 2 instances where someone had an audit where there was any issue whatsoever. One was my stupid mistake that we didn't calculate something on their state tax, so I just covered it for them. Another one was someone transitioning to work with our team in the middle of when they got audited, and we couldn't tell, was it their accountant's fault, our accountant's fault? Twice over 15, 16 years. I mean, it's nothing we're not doing anything illegal or unethical. It's all black and white strategy. But most people aren't proactive, and most accountants are so reactive, or they just get in their ruts where they're not thinking about this, or they say they're conservative because they know that they haven't kept up. And most business owners just feel it's too painful to move, or they don't even know what questions to ask. So there's a huge opportunity for everyone, since you're talking about mistakes, is to go back. A lot of entrepreneurs make the mistake of just trying to earn more money rather than keep more money at the same time, where they boost only the revenue, not thinking about how to boost the profits, where they're trying to save money and they put money into speculative investments rather than saving tax, which is higher guarantee, or taking their underperforming assets and paying off loans so they can improve cash flow. Those are just a few of the mistakes we've already covered.
Absolutely love that. So tell me, as you take a look at as an entrepreneur, because one of the main things a lot of our business owners, when they first get started, is the idea as far as all their money they feel like they have to keep for themselves just because they don't know what's going to happen next. Or they're out there a lot of people get almost conservative just as far as feeling like, I don't want to not have enough money to grow my business. How do you talk to business owners about the ability to expand on things and make more money while at the same time being smart with the money they currently have?
Well, I think, we gave a little hint with this first thing, which is a wealth capture account. But I do find most business owners are too illiquid. So before they start funding retirement plans, we do want to see them have at least a little bit of liquidity, a little bit of money saved up. But now what I want to have everyone do is examine what the financial institutions are doing to them. People put money in a financial institution like a bank, and then a bank takes and puts a certain percentage of that in reserves. And of that reserve, there's certain places where the banks are putting their money and they're getting a 4.5% return or a 5% return. Yet they're turning around and giving us at best 1%. So the more I can teach people to cut out the middleman, learn how the game's rigged, and then start putting it in their favor rather than just putting it in the institution's favor, now you can start getting money that's available, liquid, tax advantaged at maybe 4.5%, 5%, rather than just letting it sit there at 1%. Now, when that opportunity comes up in the business, I have everyone consider having what I would call a war chest or opportunity fund. When you've built up liquidity, now when that opportunity comes for expansion, for acquisition, for, you're sued, because we know there's a success tax out there in the world. The more successful you become, the more target you can potentially be. And if you've got funds available, you can handle that. Anyone that gets decimated in business is usually because they didn't have enough liquidity when they made a major expansion, or when they made a mistake, or they were redlining. A lot of businesses redline. They're always pushing so hard, so fast, without taking all these other things into consideration. So we have a structure called cash flow banking. And, I know we don't have time to go through that whole thing, so I'm happy to just kind of gift the book that teaches that one microcosm of a strategy that the Rockefellers have used and that is really useful for businesses to build liquidity without having to forfeit their money till 59 and a half and do what I would call premature diversification. Premature diversification is when business owners haven't even developed their business, haven't even invested in all the people that they want to and have the team that they want, or the right processes, or the automation and technology like what you guys provide, and they're busy shoveling it away till 59 and a half. Well, that can harm their expansion. I want something that builds liquidity, but they can also use for the business as that opportunity fund or war chest when they can't predict everything that's going to happen. And so my newest book is really written upon that. My book, Killing Sacred Cows, is more philosophical. I drilled down on just one strategy, but then added a legacy component to this other book. It's called What Would the Rockefellers Do? And I think, I'm happy to just kind of gift that to people.
Oh, that'd be fantastic. Where do they get it at?
So I know I should have a better vanity URL for this, but I didn't really think about it until just now. It's wealthfactory.com/Rockefellers, plural, /book. wealthfactory.com/Rockefellers /book. So, yeah, Rockefellers /book. wealthfactory.com. So just, feel free to grab it. You'll get opted into kind of our system, so you can see when we're doing like our webinars on specific topics. A lot of our webinars are just, giving content and information. Other webinars, we're offering services like, you mentioned Robert Kiyosaki doing the forward for Russell's book. We just did a webinar with them where then we offered a video program. So, obviously we're in business to build relationships. The best way to do that is add value first. And if that's valuable, then, hopefully you go through our funnel at that point and engage at a higher level.
I hope everyone does. Again, everyone, I'm going to put that for sure. I'll have that down in the show notes. So again, it's wealthfactory.com/Rockefellers /book. And I'll make sure that's there. Again, guys, you have to understand, I hope you'd be crazy if you listen all the way through this and you didn't understand the expertise that Garrett has is just off the charts. He deals with some of the best people I know when it comes to really understanding state of the art, what it takes to build a true business. A lot of these, it's so funny. I run across entrepreneurs all the time who are working with a CPA or an accountant who doesn't even deal with small business owners. They're primarily a W-2 type of accountant, and they think they're going to get advice that way. And I'm always amazed at that. And The great thing about Garrett is this is a guy who has the opportunity to see so many different avenues of people and businesses and what actually it takes to not only grow your business, but most importantly, protect your business and have the resources long term. It's really why I wanted to make sure that he was on this podcast today. And again, guys, wealthfactory.com/Rockefellers/book. Again, it'll be down in the show notes. Garrett, as we start to wrap things up, anything else you want to make sure we get covered?
So in the world of money, most people get an accumulation mindset, a budgeting mindset, scrimping, sacrificing, deferring, delaying. I just want to emphasize that living within your means is good advice, but you don't have to budget to do it. You could become more efficient, so you keep more of every dollar you make. You could expand your means, which is continue to grow what you're up to. And so be careful not to, eliminate that growth and expansion in the name of being overly miserly or too focused on the budgeting side. And that's really, if we get to the point where someone's worth $5 million or more, 92% of them own a business. So don't neglect your business in the name of saving money that you don't know, you don't understand, or diversification, because Andrew Carnegie said he put all of his eggs in one basket and watched it like a hawk. I think that a business is the great springboard, and that you are your greatest asset, not a stock, not a bond, not a piece of real estate. And accumulation is a wasteful mindset of just trying to set money aside, waiting for compound interest to kick in. Instead, focus on cash flow. What can you do to boost profits, recover cash, add more money to the bottom line? That's going to be a much easier kind of low-hanging fruit. And then strategically engineer wealth. Figure out what's working, what's not working, and what your actual financial plan is. A lot of people say they have a financial plan. It's not a financial plan. It's only a retirement plan. Financial plans take into consideration your foundation so that you're on a solid basis, your safety, where can you transfer risk, and then your growth, which you figure out your investor DNA, and only invest in things that are aligned with your core competencies, your core values, your core focus, and overall the things that drive you most so that you can pay attention to it. That'll help you reduce risk. Then all your dead assets, all your lazy assets, anything that's not providing cash flow, find out ways to turn cash flow on and accelerate your investment income so it can get you to financial and economic independence. And then scale that business, scale the revenue in the business, and finally, make sure that it's in alignment with your legacy, that you're taking care of yourself, that you make it count, that it's not just about the money, it's about enjoyment along the way, because one day, someday, just doesn't come for everyone, and it's not a good idea. I mean, you want to think about enjoying life, like many retirements along the way, and retire the notion of retirement, retire in your business or retire into something that still has purpose, because people that retire sell everything. They usually find themselves miserable eventually because they're watching CNBC far too much. Hell, I got kicked off CNBC. I don't even want to watch it ever again. So it's really there's a framework and a predictable way to sustain your wealth, build that cash flow, get there a whole lot faster, and not have to follow the old antiquated rules of hoping that it's going to work out by setting money aside into plans and programs that you don't understand.
Oh my gosh, I can't say anything more than that. So with that, again, Garrett, a massive thank you. I'm so appreciative of your time today. You've been one I've been trying to get on for a very long time. So I thank you so much. And again, I appreciate the offer. I will make sure it's down in the show notes, thewealthfactory.com/Rockefellers/book. Again, Garrett, if there's any last words you want to say, I'm definitely going to let you go ahead and say that. Otherwise, we'll wrap things up.
Recover cash, build wealth, take control of your finances, and don't lose money. Don't put money into things that sound great but you don't truly understand. And realize that if you have a financial person that doesn't understand what it's like to run a business, and they don't know what you're up to and what your growth is like, they're going to be a pretty bad financial person. And a financial team consists of more than just a financial planner. Make sure you have a great accountant. And just like in your business, A-teamers and the very best people help you grow that business. Same thing in your finances. Have an amazing proactive accountant. Have a great investment advisor that does real due diligence and looks out for you and understands what you're doing in your business. Make sure you've got cash flow specialists. Make sure you got people that they're absolute nerds and love what they do, even if they're insurance type people, so that you have someone that's what they're studying and that's what they're up on every day, so they can bring you concise, condensed information. And don't look to abdicate responsibility. Look for it to be custom, tailored, and brought to you in a way that's easy and elegant so that you can implement it knowing what you're doing, not just relying on someone else's advice. Far too many business owners have been hurt going, I'm not sure what I'm doing. I just hand the money over because they're really smart.
Enough said. I sit here and just applaud. I mean, I thank you so much. Seriously, Garrett, I can't thank you enough for your time today. I would highly recommend all of you guys go check out Garrett's content. This is a man who understands what it's like to be a business owner, an entrepreneur. He's been doing it literally for decades now. He works with some of the very best. I highly recommend you to take a few minutes and just consume as much of his content as you can. You need this in your business. There's nothing more frustrating for me is to see people who want to get started in ClickFunnels or in our inner circle or anything else. They don't have the cash. They think, I can never get the cash because they don't have a plan in place. I'm amazed at how fast you can accumulate things when you have a plan in place. And Garrett is the guy to go figure that out. So go ahead, go to wealthfactor.com, check out all of his resources, but definitely wealthfactor.com/Rockefellers/book and consume as much of his content as you possibly can. I highly, highly recommend everything that Garrett does. So Garrett, thanks again. I appreciate your friendship. I appreciate all that you've done for us at ClickFunnels, for our co-founders, for us as a business. You've been a dear friend, and I thank you so much. Thanks.
All right. Take care. Thanks so much, Dave. Appreciate your energy.
Thanks for listening to Funnel Hacker Radio Podcast. If you'd like to be notified anytime we release a new episode, just subscribe over at funnelhackerradio.com. In addition to that, we'd love to send you a free gift. You can find that free gift at funnelhackerradio.com/free trial. One last thing is we love giving away cars. So if you'd like access to a free dream car, all you have to do is go to funnelhackerradio.com/dream car and you'll get all the details. Thanks again for listening.